Hi, and welcome to Sustainability Explored. Every week, this podcast navigates a new topic through interviews with the most disruptive minds in sustainability, turning their experiences working behind the scenes into actionable advice you can implement using your life, no matter your background. My name is Anna. I'm an environmentalist, sustainability consultant, and the host of this very show. We continue moving through 2021 with an exciting interview on the sustainability of built-in environments and healthy interior designs. Today with us, we have April Elaine Powell, founder and board president of Design Collective 207, and a founder and creative director of ID Plus Collective. She's based in Portland, Maine area in the US. I'm super happy April joins us today at Sustainability Explored. Welcome, April.
I'm so excited to be here, Dana. Anna, that's one of the things that I don't feel like we have enough conversations about is sustainability here. It gets quieted down. So I'm glad that you're getting it out there and getting that conversation started for the everyday person, not just the people who go to school for it.
Absolutely. I started myself out of my own curiosity. I wanted to expand my knowledge in the areas I was not at all connected to. And it turned out that people find it interesting too. Let's talk about you. How did you find your way in sustainability? Where did you start? What was your sparkle?
Oh, I think I have to give my parents credit. I'm going way back. My dad, actually, as a child, my dad was doing organic and sustainability from day one. I remember reusing jars of pickles, reusing, the toilet paper measured out, piece by piece, amount of time the water was running. So to me, those things have become they're everyday things that I'm constantly aware of. And I think that it just felt natural that when I started moving into the design world, that was what I was going to take with me, because I felt like it was something that really needed to be honed in on by the built environment, especially in my niches. And I run a firm that focuses on commercial, which is in the retail, hospitality, and wellness environments, which basically alternative medicine, spas, places where people are engaging in a lot of activities, and we need to find ways for them to be able to do that without draining our natural resources. So that was kind of my motivation and where I started. And I went from being a chef, where it was easy to me, it was easy in the chef world to focus on sustainability and on reuse and the whole renewable, recycled world. And, because having your own garden, creating the things that you needed, reusing things completely. Like, for instance, if you take an avocado, everyone just assumes they're just eating the inside of the fruit. Well, you can actually use the avocado, can be used for a dye. It can be used for, you can plant the seed. It will create a plant. You won't, unless you're in the right environment, of course, have fruit grow off of it, but you'll have a green plant. I mean, so that's using it all the way down. So that's one of the things that there's a tip right off the bat.
Yeah, it's true. My problem is always that you have to find time to plant an avocado, to think about it, to think about all the parts you're throwing away because it's not the time, it's not that important. And so I'm blaming myself, and at the same time, I'm lazy. So it's the whole story.
I think you do. I think you, as a consumer, as just, your everyday consumer, you have to think about your plan. Like, what am I going to have the time to focus on? So pick one or two things that are you that you'll be able to do on a regular basis to lower your carbon footprint. And it isn't about doing 100% of everything. Nobody can do that, but it's making an effort in some way.
Absolutely. I was recently asked, I mentioned a couple of times in the conversation, oh, minimalism, decluttering, and the person asked me why. Because my parents are hoarders, because I'm aware of the planetary boundaries. But for a second, I was like, wow, I don't know how to answer this question. Why did I start decluttering as a maniac? Like almost everything. Like, is it useful? Is it functional? Am I optimizing? Am I using my space in a proper manner? No, go. Like sell, give it away, offer it to someone who's going to be happy. But for a second, I was like, why actually,
I think it's also too, growing up myself, my parents got divorced when I was very young, and my mom was a single mom, and there were four kids. So she learned obviously from her lifestyle to teach, and she taught us how to reuse things. Like I wore my sister's clothing a lot, when it was possible. My younger brother wore my older brother's clothes, and it was things of that nature that you learn from your parents. And that saves that not only is that saving the planet and making an effort, but you don't even realize you're doing that part of it. What you're focusing on is how much does it cost? How much time and effort am I wasting as a single parent, as any of those, pick your category. But a lot of times we're doing it and don't realize we're doing it. If you're in a little OCD, never hurt anybody. So,
Yeah.
I'm obsessed about turning off lights and water usage here in my own home now. I follow my partner around turning off lights. I grew up in Seattle, Washington, in the States. So it was more natural for us. I think my dad was a hippie in all essence, but he was a hippie with such style. That's what I always to tell people. But he would shop at like really high-end places, but he would buy things that he knew would last for years and would be in his closet on a regular basis, and he would use. I mean, it's little things like that, and the materials they were made out of. Being conscious of, am I using a fabric that's going to end up in a landfill? Am I using a fabric that will just go back to the earth and repopulate our plants and trees and all of that? It's if you were to sit down and think about everything, one of those things, you'd go a little nuts.
But I feel like we're going into that direction more and more, probably with the change of generations, with this minimalism, with more and more younger people wanting to live zero waste lifestyle, wanting to be conscious and mindful of the resources they put. I think also because like generally we make less money or more maybe, and we want to use our resources in a proper way. Speaking of that, of the decluttering of the spaces that we find ourselves in, 2020 was the year that we spent indoors almost entirely. And
Yes.
not only indoors, but offices are also indoors, but we spend it in our own houses, apartments, rooms. You are now a designer, a sustainability indoor built-in environments designer. What do you think we should all know in order to have these places working for us and not us working for them? How to create a healthy space?
A really important part with the fact that we're all living in small quarters, we're all working in small quarters, we're teaching in small quarters. Those of us who still have children, my children are all out of the house, but I have a lot of friends that have children they're teaching in their home as well. So you're taking work, play, nurturing, family life, all of those things, and putting it into one home, one place, which in some instances, it can be a pretty tight squeeze. I think that the most parts is that as far as sustainability goes, is be cautious and careful and in choosing what materials are in your space. Like for instance, you see the paint behind me. The paint on the wall is just as important as the rug under your feet and the clothing on your body, because that paint and that rug and the clothing, if it's not chosen correctly, is putting toxins into the air that you're breathing. And on top of the COVID piece, we don't need any more of that. So if you're going to add things to your space, pay attention to where they're coming from. Know who, it's kind of the old terminology when people started paying attention to what they're eating. It's know what the ingredients are in your food. So know the ingredients in what you're wearing and what you're creating your space with. And furniture is a big one now too. There's a lot out there producing inexpensive furniture, but that furniture has so many has formaldehyde. It has all of these dangerous chemicals within it that if you bring that into your home, and especially here in Maine, where I am, where it gets cold and you have heat on a good portion of, you're adding that to your entire environment as well. So long and short of it, pay attention to your materials, choose them wisely, be thoughtful about it, ask someone who knows about it. Don't be afraid to ask. Most of us, I'm a LEED certified interior designer, and most of us have been trained with that information. And if we don't know it personally in our own heads, we can direct you to someone who does, who can give you good, solid advice. And most of us don't charge you by the minute for that information. So that's another thing that scares people away too, is they think that it's going to cost them to ask a question. We're not like attorneys. We're happy to share a little bit of information that, give tips. And I actually offer a Ask Me Anything for 30 minutes. So if you go on my website or any of my social media, you can book a 30-minute call to ask questions like that. Like, can I use this? Is this a good fabric?
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask, what if the person finds himself or herself in the rented apartment, rented space? But then I quickly came back and I recalled my own experience renting in Canada. They usually rent empty. This is crazy.
But here in Maine, there actually is a lot of places that are furnished. That's become the new thing because it's like an Airbnb. So you've got, and to be honest, in the majority of those people, unless they're really conscious about the environment, are not being careful about what they're putting in. They're doing what's least expensive and least time consuming to put furnishings in. So that's another thing. It makes it harder if you're one of those people, but I highly recommend, unless you know the person and you know they've used the products that you know are safe, go with something empty like you did.
Right.
That applies.
What do we need to know beyond the certification? So the certification LEED or BREEAM that they use in the UK is a set of rules, requirements, if you want to get the building or the space certified. What is beyond that? What lies beyond the certification?
So the certifications talk about the build. So that means the structure of what it's built in. My certification, which is about the interior. So you have many levels of certification, like within LEED, and there's also the WELL AP, which is about the wellness piece of it. So you want to step in from the outer structure to the interiors and talk to someone who knows healthy materials, talk to someone who knows, and engaging an interior designer to help you solve all those issues, especially if you're a small business, is really going to be worth the money, the investment. And it's really about what truly the investment in the long term that you want for your home or your office or your business for that matter, is finding those people that know the information. So you want to know how your energy is being used. How do you process that? That again, the LEED certification is great, and they're guidelines and they're important, but you need to educate yourself on what it is within that building that's going to help you. And how can you can put all those certifications in and do all the right things, but if you aren't operating your office or your business in a way that's sustainable, it's not really going to make that big of an impact. And it's really not going to affect your bottom line if you're not utilizing the tools.
Absolutely.
So one of the things I highly recommend to most people that are just getting started in this, do your homework, research what the differences are with the different certifications and what they mean. And then research, like for instance, I use a flooring company that I know and trust, Ultro. They have no vapors. They are next to no vapors. That means there is plastics, there is reusable furnishings that are bright and cheerful and engaging in a modern sense that they're not going to make you sick. You're not going to be walking out of the room going, oh, I feel really exhausted. What's that from? Or I'm sick to my stomach. There's so many, our environment is so important. And if we're paying attention on a regular basis to those pieces, engaging someone who does know will alleviate a lot of that stress from yourself and also get it done right. And interior designers create a master plan. So that includes how to utilize your space, how to utilize all of the little nuances that we created for you, your technology, your equipment. All of those pieces are really important in the scheme of things, and they're also going to make your life easier. That's what they're designed to do. The human experience is most important.
I cannot agree more. Less than 3 months ago, we moved into a new apartment that we rented, and apparently it was designed with the help of interior designer. It's so relaxing. It's so, I used to describe it as the visual, like how my eyes move. There is no bumps. They don't stop. They don't restart. They don't feel anxious like me in my mind. I don't feel anxious because nothing stops me from point to point in my environment. And then, I noticed that even the bed sheets and the towels are playing with the rest of the colors of the apartment, with the patterns here on the wall, the pattern somewhere on the decorative pillow. I was like, wow. And the harmony, this balance in the environment outside started to call for a harmony inside. So to the point that I started to, clean in a way my nutrition, clean my head of negative thoughts. I decluttered completely my wardrobe, all the things around, and even the digital space. I removed about 4 or 5 gigabytes of never read emails, like promotions, updates, and so on. 4 gigabytes, like how crazy is that? Because the environment, the environment of the apartment and the visual and the interior design started to call for more harmony. Like again, the smooth road, smooth visual, smooth feelings inside. So I'm totally with you on that. And I had a guest on my podcast, Terry John. He said, light has to come from unexpected places. Forget about overhead light. Let it come. Let it kind of tickle your imagination. This apartment is exactly the case of light coming from unexpected places. And it's art and it's science. It's really it's working its magic for me.
That's fantastic. That's so good to hear, because as an interior designer, that's what you want. You want to help someone live in a space that reaches them without effort, that it's about their lifestyle and how they operate, and encourages them to be who they are from the inside out. I love how you just described it.
And even better, not just how you are, but even better than you are.
Yeah, environments matter. That is absolutely my total deep rooted belief. Environments matter.
Why did you choose design in particular?
I felt, I have to say, I felt called to the idea of taking a space and make it about an environment or about an experience. Experience design is a lot of what I do, because I work with small businesses who are taking this brilliant, amazing idea and but eventually getting it to where it's an experience for a client. So like, for instance, a restaurant, when you walk into, let's use a well-known one. When you walk into, let's say, a Starbucks, you know what to expect, and you have an experience from the front door all the way through the process and all the way back out. And you're engaged as the consumer, you're engaged with each piece of it because it has been meticulously given attention on each point. So there is the attention to the outdoor, the outer exterior of the home, or excuse me, of the business. And then you walk through the door, and it's not just even, there's thought put into that door. Is it a single door? Is it a double door? Are you having to touch the door? These are the things that, with COVID especially in mind, that businesses like Starbucks are starting to have to pay attention to a little bit more intently. But they were already thinking about those things, just not with the level of touch that we are now. But then you walk through the door, your first experience has got to be a wow, has got to be a wow from a perspective of, I can't believe I'm here. This is so, name your list of things that you came to the Starbucks for. Oh, it smells so good here. Oh, it looks so good. I can sit, I can relax, I can have a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, enjoy a snack, and the staff gives me what I need, brings me forward. And so then the steps of if you take a look at the flooring, now we've got serious wayfinding, because now we have signs that say stand here, 6 feet away from the person in front of you or behind you. Those didn't used to be there, but if you think about it, they're kind of helping us in a sense with our sensibility of giving someone space, our sensibility of allowing someone to feel safe and still attend to their needs in a public space. And I think those kind of pieces are what brought me to interior design, is that need to combine the tactile, the touch, the feel of what we're doing in every aspect of our environments, to make them matter. One of the things that I chose to focus on, hospitality and wellness, and these are areas of design that I knew well. You know, I grew up, my father was a massage therapist, taught kinesiology at the University of Washington in Seattle, and has a spa. Well, really, it's called a wellness center. It's called a Bentor Wellness Center, and it's still in existence now. But one of the things I learned through those years as a kid was how to interact with people, how to engage people, how environments, when you're seeking help and nurturing for your body, are so important. Years forward, I'm really interested in food. And so I've moved into the food sector, and I went to school to be a chef, because that to me is a part of design and of styling and creating. My intent was to nurture people. as a chef, and it took me a while to get there. But then when I got there, I was also engaging with all of these different levels of, when you work as a chef, when you're running or managing people, one of the things you're focusing on is how do I help my people do better? How do I engage them in their work, engage the client or the customer in the environment of what we're doing? And one of the things that I found I was leaning toward all the time as a chef was workspace, workflow. How can we tweak this so it works even better, and so that it's safer for the employee, but also gives our numbers a boost because we're able to do things quicker. So it's kind of like that I was seeing that there is a synergistic connection between cooking and feeding and nurturing people and the environments it was being done in. And so for me, it just felt like the natural progression. Let's take this to the next level. I want to help small businesses create these environments. I want to help someone take their dream to the next level. And now I can help them do what the big corporations can do.
But I'm listening to
for me is it's always been this connection to helping people.
I'm listening to you, and I so much love your philosophy behind your every action. This is exactly the mindfulness and the conscious mind that is turned on consciously. What am I doing this for? What am I trying to achieve? Not like I went into this profession because I had to pay my bills. So, here I found myself in cooking. Never meant to, but here I am. But the meaning behind this is something that I lose sometimes, and I remind myself. I even have a book where when I started my journey, why, with all my whys, what I want to do, how I want to feel, what I want to bring back to the world. And sometimes I have to open back my first pages, like, okay, I'm feeling super down. Why? What am I doing wrong? Where have I lost my thread?
I so agree. It's important, doesn't seem quite enough. It's imperative. It's imperative that we check in with our why. Even set yourself up in your schedule. Let's check in with our why in every 3 months, every month. And that's why we have goals. I mean, if you've ever worked with a business coach, that's why they set goals. It's because they want you to keep checking in with that why. And the guidance I give small businesses as I'm helping them through their process is that check in with your why, and that equates with your brand and your experience you're trying to share with others. So it's not just about how you experience your space, but it's how you want others to experience your space. That's important. And I think that when we check back in with our whys, and even for our homes, if you think about it, in your home, do I entertain a lot? Do I have family, friends, business associates in my home on a regular basis? Well, post-COVID, obviously, or pre-COVID. But those are the questions you want to ask and those are the basic questions. There's so many others that get down to the detail. And that's one of the things that we do as interior designers is we ask the detail questions. We want to know who you are and how you operate and what you want from your environment. That's how we know how to guide you. And the big one that everyone wants to avoid talking about is the budget and the cost, but they are important.
Well, I think sometimes it's better to invest in the earlier stage than to feel uncomfortable for the rest of your life. Especially if you're buying, if it's yours, come on, really invite the interior designer, make it yours, have this light coming from unexpected places. Encourage the well-being and the harmony. It will pay off. It really will pay off. It acts on so many invisible levels.
I cannot say yes enough.
Preaching to the choir.
It's one of those things that we encourage people to do, if you're invest now in the beginning in doing it right, because it's much more costly if you try to do it yourself and you don't know what you're doing, or you don't engage the right professionals to help you. Going back and fixing something is much more expensive. And that budget, that taking the time to build a
100%.
budget, at least a guiding budget, is the one thing I absolutely insist upon with every client. No matter, you can tell me, oh, I don't have to worry about money. I'm still going to give me a budget, because we don't know. A budget also talks to where your priorities are. Those are important pieces too. And especially when we start talking about sustainability, when we start talking about healthy materials, and we start talking about, there's a misconception that's being taught, that being healthy is more expensive than not being healthy. And that's not entirely true, especially now. There are so many companies that are making innovative changes to how products are made. The whole idea of using renewable and recyclable materials, like a pop bottle or a water bottle. Do you know how many different ways a water bottle gets used now? There's at least 4 clothing companies that use it in clothing. Patagonia is one, off the top of my head, is the one I think of the most, because they pretty much were the first ones to do it. I have 3 sweaters that are made from recycled water bottles, plastics, and they feel just as comfortable, if not more comfortable, than my others. So there are many ways that big companies are trying to do the research needed to bring the costs down, so that we can all start taking advantage of the renewable and healthy materials out there, so that our buildings are safer, for everyone, buildings and interior pieces, and which is making my life a lot easier.
That's cool. What would be your predictions? What do you think how the industry is going to evolve and develop in the upcoming year?
Oh, they're on fire. There are renewable companies out there. There are big, like for instance, Knoll Furniture and Textiles has been working tirelessly since they started, in 1935, at paying attention to the environment, being mindful of how they're creating product, and not just creating product, but how it's made, where it's made, and the equipment used to do it. So everyone thinks of the carbon footprint, and they think of how the big picture. Not as many people think about all the steps that are required to get it in there. Companies like Knoll, Loom is new, a new company. They're doing fibers, so they're using renewable and recycled fibers for furniture, fabric, things of that nature. Claire Paint it was founded by an interior designer, and she is focused on healthy paints. She has she limits the colors so that she can control that. That makes perfect sense to me. Little Green Paint is also another paint company that's paying attention to the VOCs. Ultra Flooring, as I mentioned earlier, one of my favorite flooring companies right now, and especially in commercial, because they care enough to take those steps. So there's big companies out there trying, and it's just going to get better. It's just going to get better for all of us.
Yeah. Do you think people are going to require interior design services more?
I think interior design is on a rise, especially in the commercial environments. The interior design, as I see it, and as the things are being predicted, is there's a lot of people that need to be educated about what interior design truly is, and and the benefits of interior design. As an interior designer, I'm also on the board of ASID, which is the National Organization for Interior Designers. And one of the things that we see on a regular basis from our corporate headquarters is the innovation, the people that are the designers themselves that are finding we're all problem solvers. And that's one of I think the key pieces of an interior designer. On a real interior designer, their sole purpose and motivation is their problem solver. So when there's a problem, they find a way to not so much fix it as to solve it. And I've used the word solve instead of fix because I feel like fixing has to do with, something you do for a car in my mind.
Temporary solution.
Using creative resources to make that happen for someone. For instance, if you want to you have a piece of furniture in your house and you want to use it in a room and you have no idea how you're going to get that done. An interior designer can help you figure that out. Or if you have a wall that needs you might your room or getting rid of that and having it in a wall or a build-in. An interior designer can help you with that. They know codes. They have been trained in those kinds of things and how that works. So I think that one of the focuses for the future is going to be about educating the public and how we can partner with everyone in our communities to help them learn how to do. There are certain things that it's funny because I live in the state of Maine is known for its do-it-yourself attitude. Always has been. They're the last ones to, take on, well, I don't really need you. I can do it. That's something I had to get used to. I've been here for 16 years, and that's one of the things that, as a designer, those are the things you have to take into consideration of your environment and where you are. How can you help your community the best? And one of the focuses for me has been, how can I add value to the clients that want to do it themselves and help them so that they're not running into the issues we talked about earlier of doing something the wrong way. If that's where they need to be, it's meeting that client where they're at and helping them get to where they want to go.
This all sounds so exciting. Makes me want to become an interior designer. And one of the ways,
fun. And I work with interior decorators who are friends of mine, and the interesting thing is that a lot of people get those two confused. And it's not that an interior designer can't decorate but a decorator is not going to be able to give you the design and structural and architectural input that you could get from an interior designer. So an interior decorator is truly all about the color and the style and helping you plan those things out. And there are some extremely talented women and men that I work with that I would have do my own home. It doesn't make them less of a professional. It just makes them different.
On this note, you mentioned we have to educate ourselves and our communities. The podcast is one of the ways to do so. And speaking of that, I would like to ask you one final question. What would be your one piece of advice for the listeners of Sustainability Explored?
Do your homework. I know I just gave you, you're probably thinking, oh, wow. Fine. That would be my greatest suggestion. Do some homework. Pick one thing you want to focus on for the year to make a change, and do it. Just jump in and start doing it. You won't know if it works for you until you try it. And one of the things that It's one of the pieces I give to each one of my clients. Usually they have 3 options. And I said, you get to choose one. How can you take that one thing and create a memorable experience, whether it's in your home or in your business? Take that one thing that you're working on, and how can you focus on it, focus all of your sustainability energy anyway on that one thing, and you'll become an expert at it, and you'll be able to share that information with the next person. And that's how we educate everyone else, is when we become an expert on one thing, we can help others become more knowledgeable and start solving some of the problems we've created in our environments.
I cannot agree more. That was my 2020 and this podcast. Consistency every week, every Thursday, new episode religiously, whether I'm sick, tired, I don't want to do it, but I did it anyway. And I can already see the results. And I can certainly say it's working in every sphere with everyone the same way. Just roll up your sleeves and go for it. Thank you so very much, April. It was an amazing interview. I learned a ton from you. I hope the listeners did too. Thank you. All the best of luck for 2021. And we keep in touch.
Thank you, Anna. I'm looking forward to hearing. You are on my list now, so I listen to you on a regular basis. So
That's so
I
cool.
appreciate it. And I've been sharing that information with others. I think you're doing a great service.
Thank you very much. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Well, thank you so very much for spending this time with us, with me and April. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to this episode. I hope you loved it as much as we loved working on it. As always, if you have any questions to me or April, you can find us both on LinkedIn and shoot us a message. We're all very happy to have them, to get them, to answer them. If you like the podcast, subscribe on the platform you're listening on, like, share on your social media, leave a review on the platform you're listening on, or on our Podchaser page. This is the one I see the most, and I can be responsive and get back to you on your comment and review. Yes, I'd like to get better with the podcast, with the quality, with the questions, the way I interview people. So any comments you might have will be greatly appreciated. I always suggest some other related episodes for you to continue learning, educating yourself on the topic. And I'd like this time to draw your attention to the episodes called Well-being, Health, and Environmental Psychology with Lee Chambers from Essentialize, the episode I did in mid-2020 with a specialist from the UK, Lee Chambers, as I said. Episode number 2, What is Green Building and Its Benefits? This is where we discussed with Julia Craighill from Insight Consulting about all sorts of certifications, namely WELL, LEED. Both were mentioned today by April, so I really suggest you go back to that episode. Another episode where we discussed in a lot of detail BREEAM certification that is more widespread in the UK. This episode is called Sustainable Buildings with Tom Abbott. Tom has his own consultancy called Green Easy. You can follow that on LinkedIn. You can follow Tom, shoot him a message, a question if you have any. And the final one that I love, and I really integrate the tips and tricks from that episode for real in my own life, is called Effective Lightning for Individual Well-being and Sustainability with Terry John from Lifelight Studio. This is my colleague and a great friend from the UK who is a light specialist. So with these 4 episodes, I think you can continue educating yourself on the topic of well-being, sustainability of indoor environments, built-in environments, and in general live a happier, healthier, and more fulfilled life. Finally, reach out to me on LinkedIn, challenge me with your questions, suggest guests, become guests yourself, suggest topics you'd like me to cover in the future. And this was Sustainability Explored, episode number 72, season 6, and me, your host, Anna Chashina. Thank you again for listening, for being with us today, and until next time, next Thursday. Take care, stay sustainable.